have another session with our wonderful partners at Chevron. We're going to be hearing from the NOLA Fab Lab, but before that, I'd like to introduce Ms. Karen Rawls. Karen is the Senior Social Investment Advisor at Chevron and has been a wonderful partner with the Fab Foundation in our work. So I'm going to turn things over to Karen.
Thank you, Sonia, and good afternoon, everyone. I mentioned in an earlier session we were going to hear from some remarkable educators and Fab Lab managers, and today's no different. I'm pleased to present Ellie Buehler, one of the many heroes who are instrumental in the COVID-19 relief efforts in New Orleans. Ellie, a graduate of MIT in 2011 with a BS in electrical science and engineering. She worked as an Xbox design engineer at Microsoft for 2 years before switching careers and focusing on teaching. And Ellie, I have to tell you, when I was talking about you last night at dinner, I was going over your resume, and my daughter was so impressed. She's actually listening to your session today. So as an Xbox gamer, she's quite impressed with your resume.
Thank you.
Ellie mentored several FIRST robotics teams, designed the Berkeley High School robotics engineering pathway, and began working at the Fab Lab after moving to New Orleans. As a Fab Lab NOLA manager, she teaches classes from everyone from elementary to retirement folks, while also expanding the capabilities of the lab. In the current crisis, she continues to focus the lab's resources on providing personal protective equipment for first responders, local hospitals, and the community at large. And she has done a phenomenal job in providing PPE for 1,000 people in New Orleans. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Ellie Buehler. And also, Ellie, I wanted to thank you and the entire Fab Lab team and Caitlin Hunter, who's my counterpart at Chevron that manages the NOLA Fab Lab on the Chevron side. So Ellie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. All right, my name's Ellie Buehler. I'm the manager of the NOLA Fab Lab, and let me sort of fill you in on what New Orleans looks like and has looked like since COVID started. So it's been a real hotspot of COVID-19, partially probably because of Mardi Gras, which was mid-February, had lots of international visitors. I included a picture of one of the Mardi Gras parade crowds. Weeks and weeks of incredibly crowded parties. So the first case that we saw in Louisiana was community spread. So it had already escaped any sort of tracking. So the top graph that I have here is Louisiana, and the bottom graph is Orleans Parish, which is where we are, the city of New Orleans itself. So Louisiana is getting really bad again. Orleans Parish, the peak of cases was in April, and that was when we were seeing peak demand and when things were scariest here. So as soon as COVID started, there was an immediate response from a lot of local makers. Scale Workplace, which actually is run by a previous Fab Lab NOLA manager, my predecessor, and us, a group called Makerway, which is run out of a makerspace at a local school. Help the Helpers is a group that's mostly focused on masks. They've also helped us with distributing our face shields. And just the Fab Lab NOLA community, we have a lot of people who have been able to purchase their own laser cutters, and they help dramatically with increasing how many masks we could produce. We also reached out and had a lot of help with assembling things from a lot of different groups. Tulane med students were a huge help. The UNO robotics students were great. High school robotics teams, local robotics teams would pick up supplies, assemble masks, and give them back to us. KIPP school teachers, KIPP is the Makerway school, and again, Help the Helpers. So our requests from local groups ranged mostly from 20 to 200 face shields. All of them were donated. We're accepting donations for materials, but the groups that asked us for face masks or for face shields needed them immediately. So we gave them, and then we gave them immediately and have tried to get enough donations to cover our materials costs. So what we've done is distributed over 1,500 face shields. We've partnered with New Orleans East Hospital, Help the Helpers, Lake Charles Hospital, which is about 2 hours away and still in Louisiana. They were actually trying to disinfect their face masks, their N95 face masks to reuse. They had no PPE. So we got them 200 face shields. Local urgent cares, which again were operating with no PPE, we managed to reach out to some that just didn't have resources. They weren't connected to one of the big hospital networks, so they didn't have access to the face shields that those big hospital networks were organizing. So our niche here really ended up being these smaller groups that didn't have access to a big network that was ordering 15,000 face shields from groups like Scale. And so we were able to meet demand of these groups. We were able to reach out. They didn't know that face shields were being made locally and get them some of the protection that they needed. So we ended up with 2 face shields designs. We started working on this before there were FDA approved and really common face shield designs online that I could find and that I liked. So Scale, which again is a local company that does a lot of prototyping, came up with a design with the Ochsner Hospital Group, which is the big New Orleans hospital center. And they made at least 15,000 face shields of this design for that hospital group. They published their design publicly. We started making that, and that was sort of the preferred design of most hospitals. So the advantages of it was Ochsner Hospital System approved. Everybody here knows that hospital system. They liked the design. The problems with it were getting the materials. So because this group was making so many of them, it was really hard to come across the thickness of acrylic that we needed, and PET or PETG was almost impossible to get for April and May. So before we got access to that design, we'd started working on our own design with more easily available materials. So this was still in February. And posted the design on Thingiverse. And that design used 1/8 inch acrylic, which most maker spaces just have on hand. Transparency sheets, which was always available in Office Depot. That never actually went out of stock that I saw. Elastic, which did go out of stock. So then we started using TheraBand, which they have a latex version. They also have a latex-free version, which is laser cuttable. So that made an elastic band that we could use that, again, was always available. And foam padding. So our design, we worked with New Orleans East Hospital to come up with a design that they liked, and then distributed them. So whenever we couldn't make the Scale design, we started making this design, and we'd fill gaps with groups that that liked them more. Some of them, so Oakland Children's Hospital in California actually liked this design and wanted more of those. So here's some more pictures of different face shields design. The Tulane medical students, once they got going, they also started 3D printing, common 3D print design. And I've got pictures here of the Scale design as well as our eye shade design. So as the demand for face shields sort of tapered off, we started looking to other ways we could contribute. And we came up with a couple of different things. First of all, we had a bunch of scrap material that wasn't big enough, of PET that wasn't big enough to turn into a face shield, but which we used to make ear savers, which are quite popular. So that's, you can see a picture of me modeling one in that top picture. We also, at the request of the Delgado police, who were charged with taking the temperatures of everyone entering campus, they wanted to have booths built so that police officers could be protected from people as they were entering campus. So we made 10 of these booths so that someone could stick their hand through but not be exposed to the virus, and you could put those outside or in a lobby. We also started getting requests for public-facing spaces in Delgado to make custom desk shielding. So for student self-services, as things have slowly started opening, we've tried to provide as much protection as we can to the people who are interacting with the public. And thanks to a very generous donation from Chevron and from the Fab Foundation, we just received a kit that is going to allow us to make 3,000 cloth face masks. And we're going to be able to hire 3 people for 3 weeks to help fabricate those. And we're going to work with several local organizations, including Son of a Saint, to distribute them. So we are starting to get more interest from schools for face shields and face masks again, kid-sized, so that students are able to go to school and hopefully wear some comfortable PPE all day and not infect anyone. So we're probably going to up our production of face shields again, in addition to making cloth masks that are mostly kid-sized that will be distributing to students in areas that can't afford to purchase their own. So that's what we've been up to. Yeah. Are there any questions?
Amazing work, Ellie. Just a tremendous amount of work in a really short time that you all have been doing in a community with such heightened need. If folks have questions, please put them in the chat. This is a great opportunity to get your questions answered by an amazing maker in our community who thinks about this from a technological side as well as community building side. So feel free to pose your question if you have one. And I think you could also unmute yourself if you like to pose the question that way. There is a question from Liz Whitewolf. Are these projects funded?
So kind of. We have received donations that have more or less covered the materials costs. We've posted on our website a link so that people can donate to cover materials. So we are trying to, they're not funded to cover the labor, but we are trying to at least cover the materials.
And following up with that, Ellie, can you talk a little bit more about how you've created capacity in your lab to push out all of this PPE?
Well, we've gotten a tremendous amount of help from our community. So it was really overwhelming at first. And I reached out, and we're just so lucky with the people that we have around us. So Chris Hatton from KIP in particular organized a spreadsheet where we kept track of who had what PPE and where it was going. He made for us a video on how to assemble face shields. We have little videos that show like a little 1-minute video about what the lab is and what we've been doing in COVID-19. So we've just gotten a huge amount of support from the community, and I've been able to ask people to do things and they've delegated to their sub-communities. And so we've been able to work with 3 or 4 major leaders who have organized several other groups, and then it all got consolidated back to the lab. We haven't been able to let anyone in the lab who isn't already a Delgado employee. So everything has had to be done outside. So we've been providing materials and cut pieces.
And then they go to that location and they do the production work from there.
Yeah, so some people have their own laser cutters. We'll give them materials. They'll give us back laser cut pieces, and then we'll get the laser cut pieces to people to assemble face shields. They'll give us back the face shields. We'll pack them up and send them to a hospital, or the city of New Orleans, or whoever currently needs them the most.
I don't know if folks here were in the symposium yesterday, and there was a talk from a group out of Aruba, and they were talking about basically activating the Carnival community to really help with PPE. And as soon as they said that, I thought of New Orleans and the work that you guys are doing. I'm like, I wonder if New Orleans is doing that. That's a perfect group of makers.
So if I may, I do want to interject here and say that Ellie has been selling herself a little bit short here. When she talks about the makers in our local community who have their own machines, that's who she's talking about. And how did they come to own their own machines? They learned in her Fab Lab under her direction, and eventually got to a point where they were producing so much product for their uses that it became necessary for them to buy their own machines, and they had the means to do so, having made the money producing things in the Fab Lab.
That's amazing, Joe. Thank you for sharing that, because Ellie is very humble, so she wouldn't have done that. That's incredible.
Thanks, Joe.
Are there any other questions or comments at this time? Well, Ellie, we truly appreciate the work that you and the team are doing there in New Orleans. It's a pleasure to have you all be a part of this community. And again, I just want to thank our partners at Chevron for all of their support around these labs and around our work in education. So I wish everyone a great rest of your day. Please enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you for being here.
Thanks. Yeah, and thank you, Chevron. We would not have been able to do this without your support.
Great partnership, Ellie. Thank you for all your tremendous efforts.
Thanks.
Hey, Sonia, can you see me?
Oh, I can see you. Hi, Scott.
So we actually, if you see this face mask, we were able to get local businesses to donate old event t-shirts. So this t-shirt is from 2012. It's been sitting in a closet because they didn't use it at the event. So I went to all the business and said, hey, if you have any old t-shirts, we can turn them into masks. So they're advertising and they're being used, right? So we're getting them out to schools on top of the grant that we got from Chevron for the 4,500 we're doing here in our building. So we have been some sewing fools the last week.
That's very cool, Scott. Thank you for joining us and sharing that. I can't, even with my glasses on, I can't quite pick that out. I might need a new prescription, but that's awesome and a great way to cycle up. And so, guys, Scott is from the Jackson County Fab Lab, which is about an hour or so from Ellie and Joe's lab, and he is real big on reusing and recycling. So I see that's happening with PPE as well. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have about 300 t-shirts in my building that we're doing 3 layers, so everything's 3 layers of cotton, and it's breathable and it works, and it's just getting businesses involved and letting them donate without having to donate any funds, right? If they can donate the material that they were just sitting in the closet anyway.
Yeah, this is definitely a time to be creative.
I love that idea. And, you know, there may be an opportunity for Chevron to expand on some of the outdated branding elements that we have that we can probably donate to kind of further the mask making.
Yeah,
so I love that idea. Kudos to you, Scott.
You can cut it in the laser engraver in the same patterns that we're doing with the other ones, or this is a very simple, just a 10 by 8 rectangle.
Yeah.
And they're very simple to sew. You can sew them about 3 times as fast because it's just rectangles. There's no curves to follow. And then putting the elastic in it, and they're so simple to make.
Well done.
Scott, what are you using for your elastic over there? Have you had any of the troubles that we have with running out of elastic?
Yeah, so we just got these great big long rolls of like shoestring elastic, and we're just using that. The flat band stuff, you can't find that really anywhere.
The art of making.
Right.
And it looks pretty comfortable. Is
Oh,
it?
it is. So my glasses don't fog up. It's soft t-shirt material, so it's not scratchy at all. And it's a 10-inch by 8-inch rectangle for adults, and we do a 10 by 6 for adults, and we do an 8 by 5 for kids. And it stays on. It's not scratchy. It doesn't annoy you. I don't like wearing the mask myself, but this one, it doesn't bother me. And then, so we did this one as a sample. So the other side is Ingalls, which is our shipbuilding around here. So this is a Singing River Electric and an Ingalls shipbuilding shirt mask that we just made this one as a sample so that I could have both sides. But we just had different businesses just bring us shirts from old heart walks and old events they had, fishing tournaments, you know, just different stuff.
I'm sold on it after you said your glasses didn't fog up. So
Same here. That's exactly the problem that I have.
Yeah, so this is the other side of it, and we only did this one 2-sided where we could see it, just so that we could show the businesses that gave it to us. We're going to post it on Facebook. They like seeing their logos on stuff like anybody else does. And if you can keep them happy, then they keep you in business, right?
well done.
Well, Scott, if you want to throw in the chat where people can find you to follow that, please do. Everyone else, if you can still see your screen, Ellie also has her information up on this slide. And I believe through the work we'll be doing post-conference in terms of sharing videos, we will also share as many of the PowerPoint decks and presentations as we can as well.
I think that's a best practice that we should promote. So
yes, for sure, for sure. Well, anyone else have anything before we wrap up? We've got about a minute. Jeff is giving everybody a shout out in the chat from Malawi saying good work. Thanks, Scott. That's
Yes,
Fab
ma'am.
Lab Jackson County on Facebook and Instagram. Okay, everybody. Well, onward. And as they say, have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you at the rest of the conference.
stay safe, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.